I've got another Pilates Express, short workout, lots of good movement. We're going to use the small ball again. This is one you can just get an inflatable ball. This is called an overball. It's a little softer. I like that because it gives me a little bit of resistance, but then not so much that you feel rigid with it, okay? So we're gonna start out with an exercise just to open your upper back a little bit. Oftentimes we come to Pilates and we're just super stiff, and if you start right into something without opening up, it doesn't always feel so great. So I like to place it kind of right between my shoulder blades and just take my hands to frame my head. Draw back. There's just never a time that opening it in to extension doesn't really help. We spend so much time in our lives in a forward fold, that round shoulders, anything we can do to open up is helpful. So imagine that you're just wearing a coat hanger right here, and you're just gonna let that coat hanger go over to the side and get a really great stretch in your pecs, right where that fascial line attaches. And then coming back the other side and stretch and open. And then you might just do a little bit of rolling vertically. And you don't want to come so low that you get anywhere near the kidney range, but just a little bit of ebb and flow. See if you got any tight spots that you need to work out. Good. And then from there, we're going to use the ball to help us work through a little bit of a roll up. I love placing the ball here to really reinforce the glute connection that you need to use with your abdominals here. Many of my clients have very tight hip flexors, and they're always starting to fire here, and then they lift their legs when they come up and they lose their control. So I want to use this as a way to really reinforce the connection between the abs on the front end and the glutes on the back. So my feet are pressing down. I'm going to bring my arms overhead, take an inhale, and as I exhale, I'm trying to peel my body up and over, reaching up, sitting tall, and then I'm going to bow forward. As I come back, I'm going to point my toes, which is going to reinforce my quadriceps on the front end to help me de-escalate safely. Now, if you're the sort of person who has tight hip flexors, and coming up all the way might not yet be available to you, take your arms around, right? And bend your knees, kind of drag the ball in, and it gives you a little bit of support there. It's a modification as you're starting to get a little bit more stamina. We'll do a few more of these. Inhale, exhale. See if you can keep your biceps framing your ears, sitting tall. And as we're going forward and back, we're really trying to recruit the low belly and be even across your pelvis. Just do one more inhale, exhale, take that modification. If you need to, reach up, stretch, and then roll it back and down. From here, I'm going to go right into a leg circle. And I'm going to use a band to help. Of course, a lot of people, again, this is new stuff to you, and as you're starting to work this, use props, use some support until you're able to do it without anything. So I'm going to have now my one leg down on the ball. It's a challenging position there to really feel my stability in the pelvis, but I've got a band here to give myself a little help. This is a leg circle, so I'm going to keep a neutral pelvis. Inhale as I start, coming toward the midline. Exhale, draw my abs in to keep my pelvis level. We pause at the top. You never want to let momentum do your work here. Really create a nice circle that's within your control. Inhale at the top, exhale, abs working with the glutes as I come around. And we do about 8 of these. You all know by now that I'm not the best counter, so sometimes it's not quite 8, sometimes it's a little bit more, but we work toward that. Exhale, deep low abs, coming back, down, around, and up. I'll say that's one more, somewhere in the range. Now, as we start to come away from the midline of the body, it gets a little harder to keep that pelvic control. So that heel on the ball is such a nice reminder to me to keep that stability while I'm mobilizing the other side. Exhale, pause, reclaim those abs down, around, and I'll see if that's about 2 more. Reach and stretch. Your circle is only as big as you can control. And I'm going to just take it out for a nice adductor stretch. Oh, that feels yummy this morning. and bring it across the other way, taking into internal rotation. That's going to stretch my IT down. All right, I'm going to switch. Now bring the other leg onto the ball. Heel flexing, reinforcing that dorsiflexion position to activate my hamstrings. Right, I've got the leg framed in there. Check my neutral spine, come into the center of the body. I'm going to pick up my pace this time. Inhale, exhale around. So start to feel a little bit of heat building into my body, but notice that I'm not randomly coming around. I'm still trying to hold that form each time. And it's much harder for me on this side. I am so much less stable on my right side. Little bit of instability there is why I do Pilates, because I've got to get that control. And I'm going to bring it up, exhale around. Really trying to feel that stable base and then that nice mobility through my hip socket. Even though this is called a leg circle, it's actually an abdominal exercise, a great one that you can do any time of the day, traveling wherever you are. And then as I come back, I'll just stabilize now through the right hip, open out, and then cross it toward the midline, making sure I'm doing that from the hip and not my low back. Feels fantastic, and I'll now release that. Now I'll use the ball again to transition as I come up to my roll up. And now I'm going to do an exercise called rolling like a ball. So the objective here is to roll back and forth in a flexed position by being tight into a ball. Now you could just grab your ankles here, hold yourself in this position, but you can also use the ball in different ways. You could place it under your knees here and use that to help you hold up. So I'm going to do a few in that connection, and then I'll show you some other variations. As I'm going back, I don't want to throw my head back, and I don't want to come any higher than at my shoulder blades. So I'm going to inhale as I just rock back, exhale, come up and hold and hold and hold, getting that tight shape. Inhale, rock back, exhale, coming up. I could take the ball here between my knees and my chest, and that's going to really reinforce the stability that I want in maintaining the shape. You can see how much harder that one is. Inhale, rock back, exhale. The other thing I'm monitoring here is, am I coming back evenly, or am I deferring to my favorite side? So this is where it gets very challenging and not trying to deviate. At that time, I really came up more to my right side. Okay, I'm going to now go into a spine twist. I love the ball for this because one of the telltale signs that you're unstable in your pelvis is if your feet start to shift. So as I flex my feet, really keep myself in an upright position here, I'll know if I'm starting to shift side to side. I'm going to take my arms out to this side, and I'm going to inhale once, taller twice, tallest 3 times, not letting my shoulders or my head whip around. Exhale, coming back to center, checking my feet. Inhale, tall, taller, tallest, wringing out the spine. Exhale, I can open my shoulders this way if that feels tense in any way. And exhale, coming back. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, really keeping the chin and sternum in line. So there's this beautiful flow of your rib cage above your pelvis. 1, 2, 3, it feels so good in your body. Twisting is so therapeutic. And exhale, we're back. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. I think I'll do one more set just because it feels so good to rotate and twist. Exhale, back. Using the breath and the belly. And return. Good, let's do some side leg movements now. On my Saturday Pilates props class, I've been really slightly torturing my clients with this one. It's a very nice way to stretch. You're going to put that right at your top rib there and feel that you've got some support there. But there's some more work on the other end. So I'm going to take myself off of that ball and try to really lift my obliques and my lats. Now, if you needed to bend that bottom leg for a little bit more stability, you could do that. But as I'm dragging that arm across the floor, I'm really reinforcing the the lat oblique connection. Reach and stretch. And then I can just open that up a little bit. Give myself some nice thoracic opening. Now I'm going to take that ball and bring it between my ankles, lay down on my bottom arm, and try to keep my waist muscles lifted here. So I'm going to use this front hand like a little kickstand. I'm going to flex the feet, and I'm going to lift up with my abs. Now you saw how little that movement is, but trust me, it's a good place to really experience the precision of Pilates. All I've got to do is lift that heavy leg length using my abs. Lots of glute medius here too. Now I can bend the knees in and shoot them out, really reinforcing a deeper core connection. Still keeping those waist muscles lifted off. I think you can see if I'm cheating. And reach and stretch. Exhale. I'll do one more. All of these are, 5 to 10, whatever feels best to you. And then as I'm coming up, I'm going to take a nice little counter stretch, reach over, and we'll go to the other side. So as we're placing that again, it's just a little bit of a feedback tool for me. And as I'm starting to lift the legs and the obliques, it feels good to have something to come back to as I'm bringing myself up. So working the side waist is such an effective way to tone your body and really understanding how your abdominal control is not just what's on the front end, it's on the sides, it's on the back, what Joe Pilates called the powerhouse there. I'm going to take that out, bring the ball between my ankles, stretching down, palm up, doesn't really matter. Now, as I'm trying to press down into the kickstand, I really want to reinforce no tension in the shoulders. That's a tricky thing for me, because that's where I tend to take my tension, and I think a lot of my clients do too. Notice how I'm remaining flexed with my feet. That's important to really aim for that posterior hip to support me. There's a lot of glutes here on the side and on the back as I'm working this. Pulling the low belly in, reinforcing that really rich, precise work. I'll bend the knees in and shoot them out. Exhale. Inhale coming in, keeping that waist lifting off the floor. There's always a lot of integrity in these poses. And maybe 2 more. Reach, stretch. Add more if that feels good to you. I just want this to be a nice quick session so you have no excuse not to do your Pilates today. And reaching up. Good. Now let's do a little bit of extension. This is a nice place to help you feel a little bit of our Swan Prep, we call it. Now, first thing I want to do is make sure that I've created neutral spine in a prone position. So I'm going to press the tops of my thighs down, really lengthen into the low back. Otherwise, I'm in danger of arching my low back. Pressing the thighs down, pulling the belly up, and then I want to glide my shoulder blades widen down so that when I come up, it is truly letting my upper back extend and not letting me take over in the lumbar spine where I have much more extension than in my thoracic spine. So the ball gives me such a great place to work with. I have some resistance in my hands, right where the pinky is. It's allowing me to access my lats nicely as I'm pulling down and reaching forward with my serratus anterior. So getting this real nice release. And then I'm going to sit back into a child's pose. I could take my knees together, and that's going to give me a little bit more stretch in my low back. If I wanted more stretch in my hips, I would open out a little bit here and dive down. And we'll use the ball for a little bit of a shoulder floss here. So I'm just going to stretch it over my wrist, allowing my hips to open, but still coming back to that really wonderful rotation that I think is so important. And the nice part of Pilates is that it really moves you in all the planes of movement that we need through the day. And I'll come up, maybe take that ball behind me, stretch my shoulders, which I always need it. In just a few minutes, you've got a great little series.